Big Sills. Happy Super Bowl Monday. I was just telling Tone, kind of sloppy in the first quarter. And then after that, every quarter of Super Bowl 58 got better. It got better. You saw genius. You saw future. You saw legacy. There was a lot to like about that football game. And if you're the 49ers, you walk off the field just like the Eagles did a year ago. You can't make mistakes. Scoop and score fumble. Bad on special teams. It was almost a carbon copy of how that football team last year came back on you. Almost a carbon copy. You see, here's the difference between your quarterback and Mahomes in Kansas City. He can make mistakes and overcome them. The quarterbacks he plays against can't. I'm not saying Purdy did. I'm going to make a comment here. And we're going to talk about, obviously, the Haason Reddick story. Can I say this to you? Am I right, Josh Harris, the owner of the Sixers? Right? Josh Harris is the owner of the 76ers, right? And he's now the owner of the Commanders. Let me ask you this. You hired Dan Quinn, right? If you're going to hire Dan Quinn, how do not you look at a four-time Super Bowl defensive coordinator in Steve Spagnuolo? How don't you look at that? If you're going to go down that route, how don't you look at that? He's got 4 Super Bowl titles now as a DC. I mean, you hired Dan Quinn? Why? That guy is the best blitzer and situational blitzer and one of the greatest defensive coordinators I have ever seen when it comes to timely blitzing. It's incredible. I'm also going to say this to you. No disrespect. You know, I'm not going to come out here today and go, Philadelphia Eagles, you fired a guy in Andy Reid who won his 3rd Lombardi trophy last night. But I am going to say this here on this Super Bowl Monday. As a former player, if I'm Donovan McNabb, I look at that and go, wow, what a lost opportunity. I was with arguably one of the greatest minds in NFL history. And I couldn't win one. Not one. I'm not telling you to win 3. But that's a lost opportunity. You were with one of the greatest minds in NFL history. And you couldn't capitalize on the opportunity that you had with him. And you didn't get it done. Well, that's on you, kid. Mahomes is more talented, Sills. I know. Yes, he is. He's a generational talent, for sure. I mean, when you watch him play. By the way, I'll make this comment to you about the whole Brady and Mahomes and whether or not Mahomes is the greatest quarterback of all time or this and that. I'll have a conversation with you on that. And obviously, hey, you know, the tally matters when you have 7 versus 3. Absolutely, the tally matters. But, dude, McNabb, you blew an opportunity, kid, to be with one of the greatest minds of all time, and you didn't capitalize. That's kind of what I saw when Andy had that trophy in his hand. I get the whole 14 years. Probably you're right. All that. I get it. I'm talking about Donovan now. You have to look at that as a lost opportunity. Something else was very evident last night. How many people think that Kyle Shanahan is a really good play caller and schematically one of the greatest coaches in the game today? I happen to think that. But do you know what has become evident over the last, what is it, the Atlanta and the 2 Super Bowls that he's had as the head coach in San Francisco? He's really good at scheming people up. But can I tell you what I don't think he really is good at? His blocking schemes suffer. Quarterbacks get hurt. NFC title game, Reddick hits his quarterback, takes him out. And last night, in a critical situation, late in the ball game, nobody blocks Chris Jones. You have to throw the ball away. That was a critical series. And he couldn't do anything with it. In a moment where you needed everyone on the same page. How many times did we see penalties last night for the Niners in critical situations? Their blocking schemes just don't seem in sequence with the play caller, and it doesn't seem that it matches the skill set of the routes that they have for their guys. Every single time that there's a critical moment, there is a critical mistake in the O-line. It's like schematically, it's not in sequence. When you watch Andy Reid, everything is methodical. Everything is with patience. They stick to their guns. I told you, man. That's what really makes a great coordinator. Situational play calling and a feel for the game. That game last night in the overtime and in the fourth quarter and third quarter late, that wasn't analytics. That was a coach and a quarterback improvising on the fly and adjusting on the fly. Can I tell you what I think that play sheet is for Andy when you're late in ball games now? To me, I look at that play sheet for him, and it's like Cliff Notes. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's do a variation of this. Andy Reid, without a doubt, in Mahomes, it's the closest thing I've seen to Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. It's just in sequence. You know, the problem with the game last night for the 49ers was this. Very simple. You kept, I was just telling Tone, if you turn down the sound, okay? If you turn down the sound, the 49ers' talent was on display for 3.5 quarters. They were the better football team. Fumble here, interception, 3 and outs, and you didn't capitalize. It was like I was telling Tone that it was like watching the 49ers play against the Eagles at Lincoln Financial where you guys got those field goals. You didn't take advantage. You didn't capitalize down in the red zone. That's exactly what happened against Kansas City. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. We'll look at the numbers. By the way, we're going to get into the Haason Reddick stuff because I do think it's important here. Some landing spots, too, potentially for Haason Reddick. One notable spot I think makes a lot of sense. We'll talk about that and all that means also. That game reminded me a lot of last year, though. 3 points. They came back again, being down, second Super Bowl in a row. You know, the conversation I hear a lot of people bringing up today about Mahomes versus Brady. Mahomes is by far a more gifted quarterback than Brady. Today, I can easily say that. Just like I tell you this all the time, that Aaron Rodgers is a more gifted quarterback than Tom Brady. That doesn't necessarily mean they play the position the same. You can have all the talent on the planet, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a better. See, quarterback and athletic quarterback are two different people. Just because you're more gifted and you have more skill set That doesn't mean you know how to get the ball in the end zone. It's processing information. Okay? Same thing. But when I watch Mahomes, it's different. It's just different. I mean, his athleticism, his three-quarter, arm throws sometimes, his ambidextrous throws, it's just different. When you watch Mahomes, it's just different. How many people in here think that Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time? I'm going to show you where that the conversation about Brady versus Mahomes is closer than you think it is. How many people think that Jordan's the greatest basketball player to ever lace him up? Yes, Bob? Jordan's the GOAT? Nick says he's my GOAT. Okay. Well, if that's the case, okay, then he goes yes. So that means this then. You don't respect Bill Russell's 11 titles. He's got 11 to Jordan's 6. He's almost doubled them. Do you really have to have the tally? Like when you look at Tiger Woods, do you go Jack Nicklaus is greater than Tiger? Because he's got a couple more major championships? Or do you look at it and go like this? What does the tally actually mean? Look, I'm not dismissing Brady's 7. Don't get that confused. I am not dismissing Brady's 7 titles. But to sit here and go just by the tally, I think you lose the argument with me. I think if Mahomes wins 2 more, you could make the argument he's the greatest quarterback to ever play. Athletically and also on the field. I don't think the tally is as important as people think. People just gloss over Russell. He played against all the. That's not the point. Generationally, you'll never be able to match up which guy's better than the other guy. So if you can't do that, the tally also has to be taken into consideration. Okay? I mean, Russell's got 11 titles. That's your argument? Jordan's better than him, but Mahomes is not better than Brady. It doesn't work. That argument is flawed. That argument's flawed. So, I mean, greatest of all time? Now, do I think he has to have more titles? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do. But he's there. This is a more impressive dynasty than the Cowboy dynasty because it's in the salary cap era. Andy Reid has solidified himself on the Mount Rushmore of coaches in pro football history. I would take him over Landry. I would take him over Shula. I would take him over Hallis. I would take him, especially in today's NFL. Okay, the reason I wouldn't take him over Noel drafted his players and hired his coaches. Noel is actually like a modern-day Tomlin, but he won 4 titles in 6 years. There's a little difference. I mean, you could make the argument he's greater. I'll tell you this. I'll make a comment to you here. If Andy Reid wins a 3rd straight NFL championship, where no team has done that in the Super Bowl era. Now, remember something. The Packers are the last team to win 3 NFL titles in a row. Okay? 60, 66, 67, and 68. Okay? First 2 Super Bowls and the last NFL championship. They're the last to do that. But if Andy Reid in the Super Bowl era, with the salary cap being the way it is, wins 3 NFL championships in a row, in the time frame of what he's done, you could make the argument that he's compatible with Lombardi. The craziest thing is he's doing it with nobodies. Travis Swift is the only weapon. Correct. The rest of those wide receivers are good. And what did we tell you? And we've been telling you this all year. And all of you guys and all of your A.J. Brown lovers, it's on display in Kansas City. You don't need a big-time wideout if you have a big-time quarterback. But if you don't have a big-time quarterback, you need big-time playmakers. Brock Purdy played a good game last night. Not exceptional. But even having all the playmakers wasn't enough. Jalen Hurts is not going into that Super Bowl with Dallas Goedert and beating that guy. Is anybody in the league? I don't think. Everyone's at a deficiency right now. I think the gap could almost be wider when you play Mahomes than when you play Brady. You can't make mistakes. He can. He throws his team out of trouble. Every single thing that he has done the last 2 years without Tyreek Hill has enhanced his legacy. It has enhanced his legacy. You took the greatest deep threat away, and you beat two great rosters in 2 consecutive years. Someone says, what was that? Dick riding? You bet. I reward greatness, not incompetence. Okay? Yes. Am I a guy that praises people? No. So before you start talking shit, my show is not a show that throws a lot of love at people. Okay? You have to be on, and by the way, what I said to you about Kansas City's defense last night, and Mahomes were the reason, and Andy Reid were the reason that they beat that team and beat you last year. And this year they're better. Hey, and by the way, when all you guys were laughing at me, Xander can attest to this. And I know he watches the show. When I said, I want that kid McDuffie, that was the kid I wanted to draft with your picks in 21. You said that kid from Washington? I go, yeah, I think that kid's a superstar. You guys all went, no. And I wanted the kid who's the linebacker down in Jacksonville, with your 2 number 1s. You guys were like, no. I'll take Jordan Davis. And I'm going like, I don't think so. That kid is a weapon. I'll tell you this, Patrick Surtain, is he second or third? I don't know, maybe. And Steve Spagnuolo, Brett Veach, and Andy Reid extended now the Kansas City Chiefs window of Super Bowl because they got rid of Tyreek Hill. And every time I bring that shit up with you guys, guess what? I can't get rid of the best player on my team. Well, if that's the best player on your team, you're in trouble. You are in trouble. Okay? Sills, you were riding the 49ers to win out. I did. And? Let me tell you something there, Haas. If I knew who was going to win a game on Sunday, I wouldn't be talking to your dumbass. That's for damn sure. There's no reason the 49ers should have lost that ball game except for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Steve Spagnuolo. You're not beating that team in a game that matters. Congratulations to your bronze medal win against the Chiefs this year. You beat them in the regular season. They have their third Lombardi in 5 years. They got better by the end of the year. You became a shit show by the end of the year. Incompetent coaching. Look at the coaching there in Philly. Chiefs are now a dynasty. We are honestly so lucky to go from watching one that was with Brady. Absolutely. I got you, senor. We're boys, man. You know better than that. Okay? Why is the... I do. Whatever, guy. Hey, dude, you don't like it? Go somewhere else. Everyone a Philly team drafts from Washington has been snake bitten. We're going to get into this here. Mahomes showed true leadership. They collapsed this year and found a way to fix it with great leadership. Yeah, staying the course, not deviating, believing in your coaching, having blind faith because the process is delivered. Absolutely. That organization right now is strong from the top down. The owner and Clark Hunt, the general manager and Brett Veach, the head coach and Andy Reid, all of these people are Hall of Famers. Steve Spagnuolo is going to go into the Hall of Fame. Okay? Going to go into the Hall of Fame as a contributor because of the 4 titles he won as a coordinator. This is the guy that beat Brady in the Super Bowl with the Giants. This guy beat Brady in the Super Bowl. And now he's won 4 titles. This guy has more championships and has been responsible for more championships as a defensive coordinator, and he can't get a look. But your dumbass Sixer owner, Josh Harris, hires Dan Quinn. Explain that to me. Where in the world does Dan Quinn get the job over that guy? If you're going to hire a defensive-minded guy, why Dan Quinn? Between Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan, they will show you without a doubt how to screw up a Super Bowl. How in the world do you hire Dan Quinn? Why? Because he was a Cowboy coordinator? From what I'm understanding, they wanted his ass out of there. Man. By the numbers. Here was my takeaways. Again, 15 makes plays when you need them. He just makes plays. McCaffrey was great. But what did I tell you on Friday? Do you remember what I said? If Kansas City runs the ball for more than 120 yards, it's over. We'll get to the numbers. Remember what I said? If Kansas City and Pacheco and that team get over 120 yards, it's over. Niners had that game. Kelsey came alive in the second half. He had 1 yard in the first half. I thought San Francisco and Steve Wilkes did a great job on him. By the way, I mean, Chase Young made some money in that Super Bowl. I'm Eagles through and through, but I don't understand the Shanahan slander. Andy didn't win shit here, and the league still had love for him. I got it. I got it. Okay? I'm not. Kyle Shanahan ran into a buzzsaw because he didn't take advantage in the first half of that game. When they didn't, if you had to sound down like I said, right, you would have swore they were up 2 TDs. Here's 2. Why in the world would Kyle Shanahan take the ball in overtime? Put the pressure on the quarterback on the other side. You'll know what you have to do. Kick a field goal. You gave all the advantage away when you gave them the ball. You gave Patrick Mahomes the ball. Why? I mean, you took the ball. Why did you take the ball? Kansas City then knew what they needed to do. Why did you defer it? As soon as that went down like that, I went, did the Niners take the ball? Why would they do that? It made no sense. It really didn't. Got lost in the game a bit. I'll say it one more time about Shanahan's blocking schemes. There's always a situation in any game that he coaches where there's a blunder in blocking. Something happens in a moment that's critical that they just don't make the right blocking assignments. I mean, Chris Jones came alive in the second half. He almost knew exactly what was going on. I mean, it just became predictable in the blocking schemes. Oh, and by the way, this is a note here for your general manager, Howie Roseman. I thought the linebacking play on both sides of the football were exceptional. And that guy, Gay Jr., who plays linebacker and all you guys hated, I thought he had an exceptional football game, and he's a free agent. And you guys think that guy sucks. That guy made plays all over the field. Once again, not knowing what you're talking about. And you can get him for $6.5 million. That's his market value. Instead, you're going to go to war with those shit cans. You might want to think about it and maybe make an investment. I thought the linebacking play was exceptional. Donkey goes, Sills, what's it going to take for the Eagles to be the new Chiefs? Get a quarterback that's Patrick Mahomes. And if you can't, you got to keep building the way you're building. Finding Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and Joe Montana, those guys don't come around. You don't have the quarterback. Neither do 31 other teams. Wait, did they really say Willie Gay sucked? No way that said, Sills. Tell me you're wrong. Gay was on fire. Last week they said it. They thought the guy, they didn't like him. They wanted the Queen guy and all this other, and I was like this. Don't you remember last week? I was bringing up linebackers for the Eagles and somebody that you could play in the sandbox with. Like that Willie Gay Jr. guy, man. You know, I don't know. He was a machine last night. He wasn't quite Fred Warner, but you ain't getting him because he was a monster last night. Fred Warner may have been the third best player on the field last night. Okay? He was exceptional in that defense. By the way, I didn't think Steve Wilkes was awful. Guy's a free agent. You might want to look at him. But then again, your pathetic general manager doesn't like to spend money at the linebacking position. Here are the numbers. Overtime, 25-22. Kansas City wins their third Super Bowl in 5 years. Incredible. Kansas City, 24 first downs. San Francisco, 23. Total plays, 79-71. Favor of KC. Total yards, 455, 382. Close game. 325, 272 in passing. Sacks count. Here's the number. Rushing. Kansas City, 130. Over. And especially, by the way, dual threat. Dual threat. I'll get to it in a minute. 2 turnovers apiece. I'll show you what the number is. that won that Super Bowl. Purdy, 23 of 38, 255, 1 touchdown, 89-3. Solid Super Bowl performance. Not great, not horrible, didn't cost them the game. Mahomes, 34-46, 333, first 300-yard game in a Super Bowl. 2 TDs, a pick, 99-3, exceptional. McCaffrey, 22 of 80, and here is the number. Mahomes, 9 carries, 66 yards, over. Pacheco had 59. When he got out in the perimeter, he became a weapon. You had to keep the linebackers home. They started running design plays against the Niners. You even heard Romo go, they saved it for the Super Bowl. Because if you're hurt, you're hurt. You got 10 months to heal. They brought out all the running plays for Mahomes. There were like 6 design plays on running plays for him. Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes was a dual threat guy. Had to be. Had to be to get those wideouts open more. To keep him home. To bring him up more on the line of scrimmage. Early in the game, they were playing back in zone. What brought that zone up? Dual threat. Dual threat. That's why people had picks on Jalen. They just sat back there. And he was told where to throw it. Mahomes breaking out in the open like that opened up the entire offense in the second half. He ran most of those yards in the second half. Hold on. No. Okay, and Tone asked, right. Now, hold on, Sills. Which is it? Is dual threat valuable or not? Do you think the style, when you're Patrick Mahomes and you turn yourself into a dual threat quarterback, who Jalen's not, Jalen has to play that style to win. Mahomes had to play that style to win that game. But that's Jalen's style. Did you see the style of play? Look, you're never going to confuse Patrick Mahomes with Jalen Hurts. But he was the 2022 version of Jalen Hurts in that ball game. Would you agree? Would you not agree? That's almost exactly the numbers Jalen Hurts had last game that they played in the Super Bowl. Mahomes doesn't have to play like that. But he had to play like that in that game against the Niners. See, you didn't play that way this year against the Niners. Hurts didn't run the ball. Jalen Hurts is a dual threat quarterback. Mahomes isn't really. But he can be if he has to be. There lies the difference. He's multi-talented and multifaceted to be able to do anything like a chameleon in a ball game. Your guy's not capable of being just a pocket passer. That guy can do anything. Ambidextrous, left hand, right hand, run the ball, not run the ball. They don't want him running the ball during the regular season. They'd rather lose a game than have him run. Shit, they don't even do the short yardage plays with him anymore after he got hurt in that Tennessee game. He can do anything he wants. Jalen can't. Jalen's got to play dual threat all the time to win. If he sits back in the pocket, he's Brock Purdy. Seriously, when I was watching in the second half of that game, Mahomes, you know what I thought of? Jalen Hurts 22 in that Super Bowl last year. Too bad we didn't see that one time in 23. That looked like Hurts. My point is, that's what made Jalen Hurts a weapon, and that's what made Mahomes a weapon. He's not going to play like that all the time. Mahomes is not a dual threat guy, but he was last night. Was he not? Led his team in rushing. Accounted for 399 yards. Almost 400 yards in total offense. Did he not? Seals, you comparing him to the best quarterback in the world. Well, yeah. When you pay somebody that money, yeah, that comes with the territory, kid. And just like with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and the rest of these guys, they don't pan out. I'm not paying it. Brock Purdy lost by the same amount of points you did, and you paying the guy $50 million. Okay? And Brock Purdy probably made as many mistakes as Hurts did in that game. My point again is, unless you have that guy or somebody who can carry your football team, you're not beating Kansas City. They have too much coaching, too much experience. You're just not doing it. It's not happening. I surrender to it, like we did with Brady. I never thought I would get into a position where I did this. If Montana's on the field, I'm not betting against Joe. If Brady's on the field, I'm not betting against him. I will never bet against 15 again. Not happening. And you know what? You can't bet against 15 and Reed. Andy Reid's design plays to freeze the backers, to turn them into a dual threat quarterback, to improvise on the fly, to make him and run design plays that weren't even in the playbook all year, to confuse San Francisco in the second half, make them run design play runs, confused the Niners. It was brilliant coaching. It was just brilliant coaching. Sills, KC has a superstar quarterback who made solid players look good and good players great. By holding AJB to Hurts, we stunted Hurts' ability to develop that. That's my point. AJ Brown doesn't help Jalen Hurts if he's really the guy. Do you agree that do you agree that Mahomes is a better quarterback today than he was 3 years ago when he won the Super Bowl? Hurts is not a bum. That's not true. Okay? He's not a bum. Why do you think he's better? He's got to be more patient with the younger guys. Okay? If you sit here and tell me, and I've heard everyone say this, AJ makes Hurts a better player. You lost me. Should be reversed. The quarterback should be making him a better player. Because if you need that player to win a game, again, what are we doing wrong here? How many different targets did Mahomes hit last night? 10? 9? How many different targets? How many did they target last night? When Mahomes started running the RPO, those linebackers, exactly. They ran the RPOs in the second half. Now, look, do you think Kansas City's going to run RPOs next year? Absolutely not. That was play calling. That was situational play calling, bringing it out when they needed it. Andy Reid is such a great play calling coach. I mean, they were calling plays they hadn't called all year because they had the guy in the building. Hey, we're going to run a design play. We're going to run an RPO here. Again, when Hurts plays like that, When Hurts sits in the pocket, he's Purdy. I'm just showing you the difference. Now, look, again, he's not a dual threat guy, but he can be. But they're not going to put a $500 million guy in a dual threat situation because at the end of the day, Mahomes doesn't need to do that. But he had to last night, so he improvised. Hurts went 1-7 down the line because he couldn't improvise. That's player development. That's developing a talent. In-game situation. Now, look, we're talking about Mahomes. Is it unfair? Yeah, well, that's the guy you got to beat. Well, we beat him in a regular year. That doesn't count. Because that game doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The last game of the year matters. That's the only thing that matters. I thought the game, I thought Kansas City hung in there. They were getting pushed around. They were getting pushed around all night long. And they were getting dominated on the line of scrimmages, especially in the first half. Then Mahomes took off running. Froze the backers, and everything came back to Kansas City. And on top of that, Kyle Shanahan panicked and got away from the run game. I think he tried to get into a back and forth with Andy Reid. And I think his ego got in the way a little bit. Isn't it funny watching some of these play callers sometimes? You know, they see somebody making strides and they want to match it tit for tat. And all of a sudden you realize you're getting away from what you were dominating that team with. And look how easy that thing got away. And by the way, just the mistakes you make. And then when the ball hits the heel of the 49er guy on special teams, that shit all adds up. You give yourself no latitude on mistakes because that guy can have mistakes and still beat you. Reddick is not getting a first-round draft choice. Absolutely not. I would not give a first-round draft choice to a guy who's one-dimensional. Cue ball. A first and a fifth for Surtain and Reddick. Oh, you're saying Reddick, a first and a fifth for Surtain. Let's get into that now. Why do you guys think that the Philadelphia Eagles have allowed Haason Reddick to look for another team for a trading partner? And he's been given permission by the Philadelphia Eagles. Why do you think he's been given permission by the Eagles to seek a trade? Jay scheme to test his market value. That's not a bad one either. Because they have to pay Smith. They're not paying Smith anything for the next 2 years. Because the Eagles will match it. Highly doubtful. That's counterproductive. If he gets an offer out there that equals the money he's making now or he gets more money, the Eagles aren't offered. They're not going to match that. Absolutely not. The Eagles want him to take a pay cut. And he's going to find a market value. And he's going to find that there's no teams that are going to pay $15 million or the current deal that he has right now. And this is what they've told him. He has the highest cap hit on the team. Q, here's what they're doing. And this is how this works. Hey, you're allowed to go seek a trade. And when no team comes forward, that's right. Remember what I said to him last week? I'd call his bluff. That's right. He believes he's worth $20 million. Not happening. And the Eagles think otherwise. Find out your market value, and if you find someone, we will gladly send you over there and get some equity back and some draft picks. Until then, you'll get restructured and a bag of money at your feet. That's exactly what they're doing. They're not budging off the number. They want to restructure at the same number. he thinks he's a $20 million guy. There's not a team out there that'll pay him that. Can't tackle, can't cover. He's one-dimensional, and he really doesn't fit in a Vic Fangio scheme. You know what's funny? We'll talk about that Belichick, or we'll talk about Kelsey and Reed and that whole fiasco. Thank God they won, or that would have been a bigger issue, at least media-wise. But let's stay on par here with Reddick. Haason Reddick is, quite frankly, paid exactly what he should be. I think the numbers are around right for an elite pass rusher. But when I posted and said that this guy's not complete, he's not a Michael Parsons, he's not. I'm not saying Parsons has a clean game either, but he can cover, he can tackle, and he can pass rush. Is Reddick a better pass rusher? Yes, but he's by far an inferior tackler, and he's by far an inferior person in pass coverage. We see that every time he drops back. It's an abortion. It's an absolute abortion. And you can't do anything with an edge rusher who can't cover. I mean, he was not very good at any of those other skill sets. And you want me to try to get this. Here's the problem that you have with Reddick. So if Reddick is going to try to find a place like Indianapolis, we'll say, seems to be a place that could potentially land there, or the Rams. So you're going to ask a D coordinator to make a position up and change the scheme up for a guy who's one-dimensional at $15 million, or to his number, $20 million? No way. I'd rather play a lesser guy who has more skill. He doesn't have a lot of skill. Is he a great athlete? Yeah. Is he a good football player? Kind of. Is he a great pass rusher? Yes. Is he a good football player? I don't know. He can't tackle and he can't cover. What do you want me to say? And every time every one of you have watched him go in coverage, it's an abortion. And Fangio knows that. Actually, in theory, Haason Reddick, if he don't get home, he hurts the defense. He doesn't help him. That's why Sweat's your best player and your highest market value player on your team defensively. Did you ever wonder? Well, Sills, this guy's got 4 years of double-digit sacks. Well, why isn't his market value higher than Josh Sweat, who didn't have a sack, had one sack down the stretch, and he's still at $20.1 million? You answer your own question. There's more of a value with Josh Sweat. Teams look at him and go, 3-down D lineman, can pass rush, can play the run, sets the edge well. Reddick does none of that shit. Okay? He just doesn't. I mean, Ringo, if he doesn't get home, he's useless. And when people use the word scheme, how many schemes does that guy fit in? One? Philly. And you were horrible against the pass this year, and your sack volume was down by half. I have no problem getting rid of this guy. Or I'll do this. I'll give you a contract extension. Like I said last week, restructure your deal, but I'm not giving you a cent above $15 million. And I have to lower your salary and your base for this to work. Did you find a team? No. Okay. Well, then I'm going to offer you less. We want you to take a pay cut. We'll give you more money up front, but we want to take it down from 15 to 10. And that will blow his mind. And he'll hold out. And it'll be beneficial to the Eagles not to have him on the field. Be like having a player dead cap money. He hurts the scheme and the integrity of the defense. He doesn't help. I'll tell you this. When Reddick, the year he had 16 sacks, and he was number one in caused fumbles and quarterback hits and sacks on third down, that's worth every cent of it and more. When you don't have a consistent year where you're that guy, like a Myles Garrett or players like that, like TJ Watt, and players that have and put up that kind of year every year, you're not worth it. You were a one-year hit wonder that gets sacks. And by the way, I'm not saying that there's not a premium on a guy getting home. There is. There's a premium on it. But he's asked to do more things at that position. Cover and cover tight ends. Do you understand the last 3 years? One of the reasons that you've been so poor covering tight ends is because of him. He is what makes Jake Ferguson look great. I have no problem being hard with him. I have no problem. And the value that I think he has, I saw people go and Sills, I'm not trading him for anything less than a 1. You couldn't get a 1 for him. At best. Guy who really doesn't have a position. 3. Just because the volume of sacks. Let me tell you this. If I took the sacks away, I wouldn't give you a 5th rounder for him. If I took the sacks away from Michael Parsons, I'd give you a 3rd rounder for him. With the sack, I'd give you 2 1s for him. You see where I'm at? You take you take his strength away, he's not that valuable. He's not a valuable asset, except the sack numbers save him. Like when you got great corners, guy could play zone, guy could play man, and he's a takeaway machine like Surtain. That guy's worth $20 million. He's worth $20 million. So, Jets, would they be interested? Cleveland? You got to remember, you got to look at Houston with the money. You got to look at teams with the money for somebody like this. 49ers, 11 picks. I saw that. By the way, I heard Bill earlier today talking about the 49ers are in trouble because they got $570,000 in cap space. Well, they don't have a lot of holes. I mean, it's not like they have to sit there and fill holes like the Eagles do. The Eagles are in better shape. No, they're not. They got a ton of work to do. They got to find players. Niners don't. I think the Niners are sitting great. Restructure some contracts, lose some money up. You don't have to pay the quarterback. What holes do they have to fill on their team? Their salary cap? Okay, they're at $570,000 in cap space. What hole would they have to fill? Hufanga comes back next year too. You're not when you're a team like the Niners and you don't have a lot of cap space, but you don't have a lot of holes to fill. I mean, at the end of the day, what are we talking about here? There's not a position on that field that they have to spend $10 million at. Backup LT? Sure. The Niners have no holes. So they're not going to really do a lot of work in free agency this coming year. Okay? They're not winning the big one with Purdy, Sills. Are you winning the big one with Hurts? I didn't think Brock Purdy played poorly in that game. You're going against Patrick Mahomes. If Mahomes is in that game and with Andy Reid as his jockey, you've got to be flawless. And if you're not, dude, that guy could turn the ball over twice, and he did, or they did. And they're going to beat you if you turn it over twice. Hurts on the Chiefs is a 100% Super Bowl win. Never happened. Never happened. So you just think he can win a Super Bowl with Travis Kelce? Sorry, I disagree. And again, don't compare your guy. Hey, by the way, I'm not comparing Josh Allen to him either. I'm not comparing Joe Burrow to him. Do you know what a win like that does for somebody like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid? It solidifies what they're doing and validates what they're doing. Look how far behind you are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania at the NovaCare Center coaching-wise. Just in coaching. Let's just take a look at that. Look how pathetic you are compared to that. And you know what sucks? You have better talent than them. And look how far behind you are. You're like a solar system away from them. You're like a galaxy from them. It's like a galaxy. From the innovative thinking, the analytics, non-analytics, the situational play calling on both sides of the ball were something that you could sit in a classroom and just watch for 12 hours and dissect. How many times did Spagnuolo dial up the proper blitzing at the right time? And Purdy wasn't awful. He was 11-19 for 120 yards against the blitz. It wasn't terrible. But in critical situations that they needed to get it done, Spags got it done. That touchdown at the end and the game winner by Andy Reid was a thing when he put that guy in motion and that guy came down, it automatically puts him at a deficiency where the guy coming out, it's a false step, open. It's just brilliance. The motion is what made the play. Of course, the guy has to make the catch, but you saw it when the motion, I did at least, when the motion came down and that guy took 3 steps. 3 steps, I think maybe even 2 steps towards the line of scrimmage. I said, touchdown. Rollout, throw, incredible. Just the design. Have you ever seen anything like that? In 3 years in Philadelphia for Jalen Hurts. Last year, even you said Hurts outplayed Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and Gannon not adjusting to us. I told you this before about outplaying Mahomes. You mean he outstatted him. Okay? He outstatted him. Again, when you make plays that matter in a game like that, don't ever tell me a guy with bigger stats. I've seen Jalen not have stats in a game, and Jalen outplayed like Dak Prescott. In the game at Lincoln Financial, when Dak had all those yards, I thought Hurts outplayed him. I thought he completely outplayed him because he made plays when he had to. Coaching matters. Dave Merritt, 5th win out of 6 Super Bowls. That whole coaching staff is spectacular. Okay? All I'm telling you is that was fabulous coaching last night. Man, Andy Reid. And again, I opened up the program by saying, where was McNabb in all this? Surely, I get it. Reid's a better coach today. He's more comfortable in his skin. Hey, by the way, that Travis Kelce scene on the sidelines, my wife said something. She goes, if that were me, I would have sent his ass to the locker room. And I said this, not me. I'm not penalizing the rest of my team because Travis Kelce's an asshole. I'll get his ass after. And we'll have a come to Jesus conversation. But I'm not doing that. And nor would anyone else. She goes, with Jimmy, you think anybody like Michael Irvin's going to push Jim? No, I don't. I think what Kelce did was he took advantage of his relationship with Andy in a moment, and it got the best of him, and he's a child and he's immature. That's an immature moment. It'll be good for his podcast with his brother, and they could sit there and fart around with that thing on a very uncool situation. It was totally uncool. And I do not condone it. However, I'm not benching a dude that the only weapon that I have as a decoy and a weapon and a guy who almost had 100 yards in the second half and helped me win the Super Bowl, benching him so that I could lose the game. What are you, crazy? I'm not doing that. And anybody who says they would, you're stupid, and that's what makes you dumb. It's like that dumb thing, well, the guy played for the Cowboys. That's stupid thinking. Now, after the game, we're going to have a heart-to-heart. There's fines. I could suspend you next year for a couple games, but I'm not doing it in the Super Bowl. Let me send you to the locker room in the Super Bowl. I'd rather send your ass and not have you play in the Carolina Panther game next year. Hey, you're not playing, okay? First game of the year, you're not opening it up when we drop the banner. I'll punish your ass that way. Why not? That's got significance too. You're going to be dropping a banner on a Thursday night next year, and he's not active because he was an asshole on the sidelines. Benching him in a Super Bowl. You can't be more dumber. Not happening. Again, I'm not condoning it at all. I think it's a complete childish, immature, and he's immature. Okay? He was. But he was also spectacular in that game. Just, I'm hearing all these people, look, his relationship with Reid, he took advantage of it. And it wasn't cool. And he bumped him. I saw it. My wife goes, hey, and by the way, the A.J. Brown comment, absolutely. Now, I do, and I hate to have to do this but I have to. If that was a black receiver like A.J. Brown or Stephon Diggs or anyone else, would other people be saying different things? I wouldn't be, and I wouldn't suspend them guys either. But it has to be said because we're in a white and black situation in this country today, and it is true. My wife said that, and I agree with her. If that was a black player, he'd be kicked out of the league. AJ said something like that. He'd be suspended for the rest of his life. My wife always tells me, hey, don't sound like a white guy. She's right. I'm talking as a football player and as a coach. I'm not suspending anybody. You think Jimmy Johnson suspended Michael Irvin when Michael Irvin got caught with cocaine and they were getting ready for the playoffs? He didn't. Sills, Travis is a diva. They should trade him, right? Absolutely not. You coach that. Hey, are black players held to a different standard? Do I have to answer that? Seriously, do I have to answer that? Because if I do, then you're just, I don't know what you're looking for. I know the difference. I'm one of the very few people that say, I've been saying it for 30 years. Black athletes are treated differently and covered differently in this country than white athletes. AJ supposedly came out and said he never said that. I saw that too, but I think the context is right. I don't think, again, he may not or may have said it, but I do think the context is fair to bring up. If that was anyone else, or how about AJ on the sidelines when he was called a cancer in the Eagle locker room? In fact, you can't sacrifice the whole organization, hard work for the whole season to make an ego statement right there. That's what I'm saying, Warrior. I'm not throwing Travis Kelce into the locker room and into the abyss when I need him the most to win me a Super Bowl. I'm not doing any of that. Okay? Not happening. But I'll get him just to let him know that, hey, this is all about respectability too. Andy kind of blew it off, and so did Travis. And I think what really blew it off more was that they won. Again, did I think it was over the top? Completely. I'm not condoning it. But I'm not sacrificing the other 52 guys because of one asshole. And then the guy I need. Who would do that? To make an ego point? You know who would do that? Who would do something like that? Would Belichick? Probably. Okay. I say 90% of the coaches might. %. That's right. He did it with Marcus Butler in Super Bowl 52. He was late to a practice or a meeting on a Saturday night before the game. Yes. He was late. He was late to a team meeting. And he was notified right before the game he's not dressing. I think those are stupid moves. Because you're sacrificing the rest of your team. I'm playing the best players I have on my roster, and then after this, I'm going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. Fines. You're not, hey, my relationship is different now. I mean, it's even not about embarrassing. It's about protocol. You're the player, I'm the coach. There's a line. Know your role, kid. Hey, Sills, the reason Mahomes is better today is because he's surrounded by a professional staff. Yes. How about this, Bob? Let's do this. Bob, if Jalen Hurts had the Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid staff in Super Bowl 57, how do you think that outcome would have came? What would have been? Versus Mahomes. Let's flip the staffs. You put Sirianni on how about this one? You put Sirianni on the Kansas City staff with Mahomes. You put the Andy Reid staff in Philly in Super Bowl 57. Eagles win. It's my takeaway. Dude, Brock Purdy did not play poorly in that ball game. He did not play poorly. One more thing on the Hargrave. Or excuse me. Oh, by the way, Javon Hargrave played his ass off. He was sensational in that ball game. I thought he had a hell of a ball game. Javon Hargrave played great. And by the way, I thought Chase Young played great. I saw a Randy Gregory sighting. Boza was sensational. I think Steve Wilkes had a great game. It was just Too many 3-and-outs. They got away from the running. And I think, get this, I don't think Steve Wilkes was the reason that football team lost to 49ers. I think it's more in Shanahan's lap. And Shanahan's going against Reed. Here, let me show you something here before we go to timeout here. And this goes to Tone's point here. Most Super Bowl losses by a coach. You know, Don Shula's got 4 losses. Bud Grant's got 4. Dan Reeves has 4. Marv Levy has 4. Tom Landry has 3. Belichick has 3. Shanahan now has 2. Shula, Grant, Levy, Landry are Hall of Fame coaches. And Belichick's going too. Now, the only difference is here is that Shula won a Super Bowl. He won 2 of them. And Landry won 2. And Belichick won 6. He's 6-3 in Super Bowl appearances. But all those coaches have high volume losses. I mean, who would have? I was shocked actually when I saw Shula have 4 losses. I didn't realize that Shula had as many Super Bowl losses until I remembered that he was the head coach of that Baltimore Colts team that Namath beat. It wasn't Weeb Eubank. It was him. Sales, I might not love all your takes, but you do tell it how it is, and I respect that. Must be a Capricorn thing. It is. It is. Reed has 2 losses too. That's right. He's now 3-2 in Super Bowls. God, can you? Hey, too bad Hargrave didn't practice the same situation needed to ice the game. 49ers defense got a little deflated with Greenlaw's news. Man, that thing was weird. Blew his Achilles out going onto the field like that. Just bad luck, man. That could happen to anybody at any time. That was some bad luck. Absolutely. That was terrible. Kyle Shanahan's going to have to wear this stuff. By the way, I'm going to say it again. You know, one thing, again, when I was listening to Bill earlier, I'm not so disappointed in their cap space because at the end of the day, that's really not the issue because they don't have a lot of holes to fill in San Francisco. But you know what they are doing? This is what Tone and I talk about all the time. They're running out of runway. And what I mean by that is when these deals come up and that Purdy deal's looming, man, if I'm John Lynch, I got a calendar. Brock Purdy is going to have a 4 or a 5 in his contract. And all those deals you have with Christian McCaffrey and Debo and Boza and Hargrave. Hargrave's the first to go probably. And all those guys, Warner and them guys, those guys are going to be in the target range. They get moved to the target range. Who goes? We're in a cap. You know, the league loves parity. I say the Niners have this year and maybe a little bit of next year before they've got to win. They got to win, man. Dude, that was as much of a catastrophic loss for the Niners as it was for the Eagles a year ago because of the amount of money and the amount of time that you're going to get when you start paying your quarterback. Again, Jalen's hits are not really catastrophic to the cap. Okay, I get it. But you got major deals coming up. You're already telling your best pass rusher, go find a team. Okay? Your runway's running out. Okay? All right. Today, little change in the rotation. We're going to have our friend Tone at 4:30. He's going to close us out at 4:30. Mark Farzetta is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. And we're going to get Farzi's take on the Super Bowl and also all the Eagle news, especially the Haason Reddick stuff. and we'll get his comments. I had a chance to talk to Britton Covey over the weekend, and I'll tell you what he said to me. He was on the way home from Vegas, and I'll tell you what he said. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.